Madeleine McCann development this morning. There's a search which will recommence today for the first time in nearly 10 years.
Yes, so Portuguese police are going to be searching a reservoir about 30 miles from where Madeleine disappeared on May the 3rd in 2007.
The only current suspect, a man called Christian Bruckner, was said to have visited the reservoir during the same time Madeleine disappeared. He's denied any involvement.
Well, joining us now for more on this is the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley. Good morning to you, Peter. Look, this reservoir has been searched twice before. What do we think has led to this latest decision to investigate it again, to search it again?
Well, the former detective in me hopes that the prosecutors have got some specific information that has led them back to this location, rather perhaps than it being a rather speculative kind of search, because let's be frank, there's been many a false dawn on this investigation. We've seen many similar searches of other sort of scrubland closer to where Madeleine disappeared all those years ago. So I hope this is very much a targeted search. And like I guess many other people, we would hope that some credible evidence is found.
Peter, I would feel better about this if they had Bruckner by the scruff of the neck standing there with the search parties. Would that have been an option for them? Why would he not be there?
Well, he's currently a serving prisoner in Germany, so the logistics of getting him released from prison over there and then transported to a completely different jurisdiction in Portugal, legally wise, would have been very complex, but quite possibly achievable. I agree with you entirely. I'd have been much happier if he was there, handcuffed, directing the searchers to specific points of interest where credible evidence could be recovered. But I don't think that's going to be the case today.
Do you think there's any reason to believe that he would have had input into what is happening?
Well, he's been pretty firm in his rebuttals that he's responsible in any way for Madeleine's disappearance. So unless there has been some remarkable change of attitude and all of a sudden he's decided to cooperate, and I quite frankly have no evidence to suggest that is the case, if he has, then it would be a very different set of circumstances that we're looking at. But if he's remained his stance that Madeleine's disappearance was nothing to do with him, then I'm hoping they've found some credible intelligence somewhere else that has directed them to this area, which is pretty substantial. I'm very familiar with Silvish and Praia de Luz. I've been to both of those places many times. And I'm just hoping against hope that this isn't another speculative box-ticking kind of exercise and that once again, credible evidence can be found.
Yeah, and all the while, this is hugely triggering, I'm sure, for the McCanns. They've never given up hope of finding Madeleine McCann. I think just recently they marked her 20th, what would have been her 20th birthday. In fact, her little twin sister was pictured lighting candles. So I'm always mindful of that when discussing this story. But with that in mind and trying to be as tactful as possible, I'm interested to know what you think the chances are of finding any sort of remains, if there have been remains, in water for 16 years. I mean, teeth, bones, do they survive in a dam?
Well, I think it's only right, as you've mentioned, that we are sensitive around these matters. There is, of course, a deterioration of a body if it is in water, almost for any length of time, 16 hours, let alone potentially 16 years. Some elements of a body can survive and could be recovered. But if, for example, this reservoir was to be dredged in its entirety, that would be a huge operation that would take a very considerable amount of time and would be hugely expensive. I expect today that things will become a bit clearer and we'll find out just how the extent, the breadth and the depth of this search, and thereby we might be able to make some more informed guesses as to what actually is happening.